Thankfully, Ron Paul is here to remind us of all of Al-Qaeda's favorite anti-American talking points. I am totally fine with the Golden Rule thing. I am totally fine with being out of the Middle East, being out of Germany, being out of South Korea. I'm totally fine with it. I'm great with that. But the endless bombing of other countries? Remember, he's not talking about Iraq or Afghanistan. If the Taliban military controlled America, yep, you bet. I'd hope somebody would come to bomb the bat snot out of them. If Ron Paul had a rational foreign policy, he'd be winning by 20 points. It's the only thing, I'm convinced, it's the only thing that is holding this man back right now. He is the only guy who gets it on economic issues. It's it. Him. I don't think anybody else really understands the damage of the Fed. I don't think anybody understands the progressive nightmare. He understands it in the financial terms. I think he understands it with the Constitution as well. He is right where the American people are, a good portion of them. But then he goes down this road of, are you living in a dream world, Ron? Really? This is why libertarians always lose, because their demands are too extreme. The demands, if you want to do these things, it requires revolution. Legalize heroin. Really? Is that really our top priority? Legalizing drugs, marijuana? Are we going to have fentanyl patches just out at the 7-Eleven? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Legalize prostitution. Okay. End all wars, cut off all foreign funding, all aid, shut down the government agencies. I am so cool with most of these things. I'm totally fine with this one. You want to legalize heroin? Fine. Legalize heroin. Here's the deal. You can only do it once the American people are at a point where they see a guy on the ground right in front of your office building and he's like, hey, he's vomiting all over himself. And you say, hey, brother, do you need some help? You want to get off heroin? No, I just need some. Okay, good. And you step over him and you go into your office. When Americans are prepared to do that, I am totally cool. The problem with libertarian thought today, or not even thought, the libertarian candidates, it's always the same problem. And it's the problem that gave us the Fabian Socialists. It's the ones that gave us the progressive movement. Who was at the root of that? Communists and fascists. That's who was at the root of these things. It was the turn of the century, last century. They were pushing for revolution, not evolution. And if you don't think the same mistakes were happening at the turn of the century and they're happening now, you're crazy. There are so many things. I want to show you something. I want to show you, this is what Woodrow Wilson said about Russia and the Russian Revolution. This was an address to Congress. Watch this. Does not every American feel that assurance has been added to our hope for the future peace of the world by the wonderful and heartening things that have been happening? Russian Revolution. Within the last few weeks in Russia, Russia was known by those who knew it best to always, in fact, be democratic at heart. The great, generous people have been added in all their naive majesty and might to the forces that are fighting for freedom in the world, for justice and for peace. Here is a fit partner for our League of Honor. Are you kidding me? You know what that sounds like? It sounds exactly like Barack Obama praising the Arab Spring. Hello? History repeats itself. Now, Woodrow Wilson went on to write a paper all about Russia and how great that revolution was. He praised the glorious Russian Revolution. Quote, perhaps, if we take the case of the Russian Revolution, the outstanding event of its kind in our age, the outstanding event of its kind, we'll find a good deal of instruction for our judgment of present critical situations and circumstances. Hello? This is why Wilson, in the end, lost. Because the progressive ideas weren't solidified yet. They figured it out after he had his stroke, and they bum rushed him out the door. People freaked out. In 1939, people were freaking out about FDR as well. They thought we were on the road to fascism, and we were. Progressives move too fast sometimes and scare people to death. It's a slow progress. Early 20th century progressives, they liked communism. They liked fascism. But what they didn't like was revolution. They didn't want to go through the bloodshed to get it. So what did they do? Progressives patiently inched their way towards a socialist utopia in the last 100 years. The Republicans did it on the fascist side, and the Democrats are doing it on the communist side. Now, why do I bring this up? Because if you're a libertarian, most Americans are libertarian at heart. Most Americans get individual struggle and individual reward. Even though we are teaching them that everybody gets a trophy, still most say the government screws things up. When libertarians understand that you have to dismantle piece by piece slowly and you reverse engineer the system, you will win. Until then, you'll continue to lose. You have to learn the reverse engineering process. You can't just instantaneously legalize drugs and rip away entitlements that people have become dependent on. For generations, they're dependent on it. They have been raised to think that's their right. What happens when you rip it away? And how does that help you? When people are rioting today over syrup at Denny's. There's no syrup, and they riot. What do you think happens when the federal government, when you just take it all away? You must teach them principles again. That takes time. And I know we're running out of time. But you don't want revolution. You have to teach Americans ethics, morals, personal responsibility. It has been rotted to the core in the past 100 years. You have to restore it. Bit by bit. First, make them strong enough to handle it. Then you can have your libertarian utopia. That's what the progressives figured out. It's up to smart libertarians who have a clue on how this has happened to us to chart a new course. You know, I was going to write a book about 5 years ago, and nobody liked it. Everybody said, no, nobody wants that, nobody wants that. You know what the name of it was? The 100-Year Plan. Oh, that's too long. Nobody wants to read a book about a 100-year plan because they'll all be dead by then. Can't you give us something by the next election? No! Don't you see that's how we got here? Is because somebody outside of the box thought 100 years down the road. They knew it wouldn't happen in their lifetime. Well, those are the people we have to be. Those are the people libertarians must become. You must think like the Chinese or think in long terms like the early 20th century American progressives. But Ron Paul supporters, I don't even know, they're a special breed. They will not budge on virtually any point you give to them. Look, I have to tell you, I understand. You know, people are writing into this show all the time. How could Glenn Beck? How can you be so wrong? You've been so right for so long. And really? Is it me? Do you think revolution will be a good thing? Do you think collapsing the system will be a good thing? Because you're wrong. And maybe we're going to find out which one of us are right in the end. I hope to God not. I had a caller call in on the radio program today. Dr. Paul can't do anything wrong. He's right on a lot of things. But may I pick apart, kind of my big problem that I have with him? Foreign policy. It is his foreign policy. Ron, you want to win? Please reconsider your foreign policy. Constitution's best friend, his supporters always suggest that. The argument is, if we don't shut off our funding, if we don't pull our military back, there will be no country left to afford a military. Well, that's right. But look at it from the other angle as well. This is the perfect storm I have been warning about for about 10 years. When I said there are no good choices that are going to be left. We can survive, as I see it, if we strengthen people. We can survive an economic depression, even as bad as the one that's coming, if we strengthen people. But we cannot survive being blindsided by Islamic extremists. We can't do it. They're infiltrating our government at the highest levels. They are teaching this nonsense in our classrooms. You have to make a decision. Now, maybe you make a decision that is different than mine, but you can't have both. Is the Fed more dangerous than Islamic extremism? Yeah, in the long term, yeah. Both of them result in losing freedom. Now, which one actually kills us? And which one has a chance of changing things overnight? I tell you, it's a tough, it is Sophie's choice. Which one? I don't know. But I will tell you this, a strong president can restrain and reverse much of our spending and bring back some of our cohesiveness. And if we don't have a cohesive population, we're done. He can restrain much of what the Fed does. But we must have a president that doesn't believe Islamic extremists want us dead because we're over, taking oil. They want us dead or convert us to Islam for a caliphate. If the president doesn't understand that, we're done. We have a president who not only denies that right now, I believe in many ways he assists in this. And Ron Paul doesn't get it. Instead, he asks if we've really ever read what Osama bin Laden said. Yeah, watch.
Have you ever read about the reasons they attacked us? They attack us because we've been over there. We've been bombing Iraq for 10 years. We've been in the Middle East. I think Reagan was right. We don't understand the irrationality of Middle Eastern politics. So right now we're building an embassy in Iraq that's bigger than the Vatican. We're building 14 permanent bases. What would we say here if China was doing this in our country or in the Gulf of Mexico? We would be objecting. We need to look at what we do from the perspective of what would happen if somebody else did it to us.
Are you suggesting we invited the 9/11 attack, sir?
I'm suggesting that we listen to the people who attacked us and the reason they did it.
Yes, he is. You don't answer that question any other way than yes or no. Why will hem and haw on that? He believes that we invited it. Now look, he's right on much of this. He is right on much of this. I remember when I was on CNN, and we were asked by the Bush administration to not put any pictures or to talk about the embassy that we were building in Iraq. Bull crap, I said. It's insane what we're doing over there. I get it. I get it. But I have read the words of Osama bin Laden. And in fact, if I may give them to you, here are the words of Osama bin Laden from the Al-Qaeda Reader. There are only three choices in Islam. One, either willing submission, conversion, so we're all going to be Islamic, one, or two, the payment of the jizya. It's a tax on non-Muslims. So if you want to be a Christian, that's fine, but you have to pay some taxes. Through physical, through not spiritual submission to the authority of Islam. Or three, the sword. For it is not right to let him, an infidel, live. The matter is summed up for every person alive. Either submit or live under Islam or die. Ron, that's who you're fighting. Period. Have we made their recruiting easy? Yes, we have. Are we making colossal mistakes? Yes. Was I the guy who was on TV saying Mubarak has been the biggest abortion ever? What were we thinking? The enemy of my enemy is not my friend. Get out of there. But you have to understand and recognize reality, and Ron Paul, when it comes to foreign policy, does not. Ron Paul has also said 1,000,000 times that he believes the 9/11 attack was blowback against the U.S. as a result of having troops in Saudi Arabia. Watch.
Soviet system was unmanageable. Communism, socialism doesn't work. We did not need to do that because it leads to unintended consequences. It leads to blowback because that led to us later on keeping the troops on the Arabian Peninsula. That is the main reason 9/11 occurred, is because we were bombing Iraq and we were occupying and had troops all over the Saudi Arabian Peninsula, and that is considered Holy Land.
I am sorry, but that is not why. A caliphate is why. Remember, we are the great Satan. It's much more complex than what he's saying.